It's time for my summer TBR. I love summer. It is my favorite season, and definitely only because it's my birthday. Other than that, it's way too hot outside. I live in Florida. It gets so hot out here. But it is time for my summer TBR, and this summer I am going to be focusing on my physical TBR. And I have a couple reasons for this. One, reading down my TBR is my main focus of this year. I had it in my 2026 goals video. And reason number two is because it's gonna be my birthday, and for my birthday I usually get a lot of books because that's usually what I ask for. That's what I love. That's why I have this channel, but I am sort of trying to prepare for that. I have over 100 books on my TBR, so I desperately need to get to them. But let's go ahead and talk about the 15 books, I believe, that I have on my TBR. First, we're going to talk about these 4 chunky books. I did a short where I did my May TBR. I'm trying to move away from monthly TBRs, but I thought I could still add like 5 books to a short and call it a TBR, and I only read one of them. But I want to focus on reading some of the chunkier books off of my TBR. That was my plan for May. Obviously, it didn't really happen, but I still really want to get to these books, so let's go through them. The Will of the Many by James Islington is one I've heard so much hype about. I think book 2 came out recently, if I'm not mistaken, but this is the start of a fantasy series. I know absolutely nothing about this. I definitely got this just because of the hype, and I've been really wanting to get back into fantasy, and specifically into bigger fantasy series, because there are quite a few fantasy series that I have really enjoyed, and yet I still tend to never pick them up. So I do want to get to this one and see what everyone's saying about it. Shield of Sparrows is another one I've heard a lot about. This is by Devney, who is an author I have also heard a lot of things about. I've never read any of their other books before, but I think this is this author's first time writing romantasy, unless this is actually like a full fantasy book. I'm actually not sure, but again, I've heard so many great things about this book, and I think the cover's really pretty. But I think this book is about monster hunters, which sounds really intriguing, and this is one that I also have tentative plans to buddy read with my friend, which is also why I'm putting it on this list. Katabasis by Kuang is one I feel like I've put on every single TBR since this book has released, but it is one I really want to get to. I think I've said it in every single TBR, but I love Kuang. I've loved all of their books, and I know I'm going to love this one, but again, big chunky fantasy sci-fi books, they just intimidate me, and so I tend to never pick them up. But I know I'm going to enjoy this one, so I really just need to get to reading it. Abbadon's Gate by James S.A. Corey is another one I've had on my TBR for a while. This is book 3 in the Expanse series, which I've loved books 1 and 2, and I bought this book like immediately after reading book 2, so I just really need to get around to reading this one. I think there's like 9 books in the series in total, but again, chunky books just intimidate me, and I always put them off even though I know I'm going to love them. So yes, I really need to read this one. Okay, these next 5 books that I have are all like horror books. I really want to try and get in that like summer-ween kind of feel this summer. I've never like purposely like participated in summer-ween. I may have read like a spooky book like here or there in the summer, but usually I feel like I read a lot of romance in the summer, but this summer I do want to try and do summer-ween and read some spookier books, because these are also some books that I tend to put off. I feel like romance is just like really easy to gravitate to, really easy to like read and like fly through, and so I tend to pick up a lot of those books, and I'm putting off the horror books even though I love horror and it's one of my favorite genres. So let's go through these books that I picked out. First is A Botanical Daughter by Noah Medlock. I believe this is a Frankenstein retelling. I've heard a lot of great things about it. I think this cover is absolutely beautiful, and it is one I've had on my TBR forever, so I just really need to get to this one. Manhunt by Gretchen Felker-Martin is another one I've had on my TBR for a while, and I think this book is all about this group who goes out hunting feral men and they harvest their organs, and that just sounds like such an interesting premise to me, and so I've really been meaning to get to this one for so long now. I just feel like this book really has 5-star potential for me from everything I've heard about it. It also has won so many awards that are like on the back, so hopefully this book lives up to the hype. Leech by Hiron is another one that has won so many awards, has been so hyped, and I feel like this book is on so many different like body horror lists, and I absolutely love body horror. It's probably one of my like favorite tropes or like subgenres of horror, and so I really want to get to this one. I also have heard that this book is written in a different point of view. I don't know if it's like second point of view, but like as like a group, and I just feel like that will be very interesting and different as a reading experience, so I am very curious about this book. So obviously it's on this TBR. My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix is one I'm very curious about. I've heard so many mixed things about this one, but my friend really loves this book, so I really want to read it so that I can talk to her about it. But honestly, I have not enjoyed anything else by this author that I've read. I've read a couple of their books and they just aren't for me, but I am still going to give this one a try. I do own a copy. I got this one from the used bookstore, so it was only a couple of dollars, but I do still want to give it a fair chance and just see how I personally feel about it, because this could just be a hidden gem for me. I know this author is like very famous and is like very well known in the horror community, but for me, I feel like I've heard so many mixed things about this book, and again, I haven't really enjoyed this author's other works, that for me, it is going to be an underrated gem if I end up enjoying this book. And then Mary by Nat Cassidy is one that I'm super excited to get to. I've read Nestlings by Nat Cassidy this year, or maybe it was at the end of this year. I'm really bad with time and when I've read things, but not too long ago, I did read Nestlings by this author, and I loved it. I became absolutely obsessed with that book, and so obviously I had to get Mary. I think this one is this author's like most well-known book. I feel like I see everyone talking about this book in regards to this author, so I really want to get to it and see what it is. I have heard that this one is very different from Nestlings, and so I'm also very curious about that, but I don't know anything really about this one. I think our main character is trying to solve a serial killer case, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, because Nestlings was 5 stars, I have high hopes for this book. Okay, and the last 5 books that I have on this TBR are kind of just random books that I've really been meaning to read that have been on my TBR for a while. Some I really want to get to, some I'm putting on my TBR just because I need to just actually get around to reading them, and I need a little push to get to them. So let's go through these ones now. Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan is a romance book that I've heard so many great things about. I've heard so many great things about this author, and I'm really excited to get to this one. However, I've also heard that this is a very emotional book, and personally, I tend to not really pick up emotional, sad books just because they make me sad, and I don't like being sad. But it is one that I do really want to read and I think could be a new favorite. And yeah, I'm very interested in this one. I also think this one is a second chance novel, which is a trope that I do tend to like, so I have high hopes for this one. The next book is Soulfyre by Samantha Nell. This one is one that was gifted to me by my mom's friend. She really likes reading and she thought I would like this book, and I don't know anything about this book. I've never heard of it before, but it is a romantasy book that I believe has fae in it, and yeah, I think I could really enjoy it. Again, I've heard nothing about it, but you know, I'm gonna try it, we'll see. Romantasy definitely has been a struggle genre for me. I feel like I haven't found a lot of books in that genre that I've really loved. I feel like the romance to fantasy elements are always very skewed, and yeah, I haven't really been in a fantasy mood, but again, I was gifted this one. I know that she wanted to talk to me about it, so I do just really need to get to this one because I do love talking to people about books, obviously, so I want to read this one so we can talk about it. I'm also adding Awakened by A.E. Osworth to my TBR. This is one that the publisher sent me back in 2025 and I never got around to reading it, but this one I feel like can also go in that spooky summerween stack that I had, but I feel like the other ones leaned more horror and this one is just like spooky witches kind of vibe. I want to say this one has to deal with this group of witches who are battling against AI, and it just sounds really fun, kind of timely in this world of AI that we're living in, and overall it's just one that I really want to get to. Again, I kind of want to get in the spooky mood this summer, so I'm putting this one on my TBR. I just think it'll be a lot of fun. Maame by Jessica George is another one I want to put on this list. I feel like I've heard people say that this is more like literary fiction or just like general fiction, which isn't what I tend to pick up, but I've heard so many great things about this book. I think this one has a lot to deal with our main character dealing with like familiar duty and like being torn between her two cultures. And this is another one I picked up at a used bookstore for only a couple dollars, just because I've heard so many people talking about it and giving it such rave reviews. And so I do want to get to this one, and it's been sitting on my TBR for a while now, and I think it's just finally time that I get to it. Also, the cover of this book is so bright and like spring summer-like, so I feel like that is the perfect time to read this one. And then the last book on my TBR is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmas. This is another one that I got used just because I've heard so many people rave about this book. I know it was everywhere back when it came out, and yeah, I want to see what all the hype is about, and it's been on my TBR for a while now. Again, like most of these books, I think this one is more of a historical fiction book. I honestly don't know too much about it. I want to say it's about our main character, who's like one of the only women in, I guess, chemistry, but I honestly know absolutely nothing about this one. Historical books just aren't really my vibe, so that's kind of why I've never really picked this one up or had any motivation, I guess, to pick this one up, even though it is one that I'm curious about. So I am putting it on this list, and yeah, we're just gonna get through some books this summer. I feel like this TBR is kind of all over the place, but honestly, that's kind of how I'm feeling. I just really want to read down my TBR. All of these books have been on my shelves for so long, not being read. I never prioritized them, and I just need that push this summer to actually get to these books, and so I'm really excited about that. I am really in the mood to make progress, and hopefully that keeps up for the rest of the summer. But yeah, that's my very chaotic TBR. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Definitely leave a comment and let me know what books you're hoping to read this season, if you've read any of these books that I have on my list and what you thought of them. But thank you guys for making it this far into the video. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!